little long there, but I had to get to some stuff. How are you doing, good sir?
Oh no, I will wait as long as people are still donating money to you.
I appreciate that.
I'm not worried about feeding you. I'm worried about feeding Ben. I know
Dude's
that.
a garbage disposal.
Yeah, dude, he's a tank. He's an absolute tank. I'm glad he wasn't there when we had our Totino's pizza many years ago.
Oh, he was pissed.
Yeah, he would have destroyed that. But Blake, it is good. It is good to be with you, and it is good that LSU won one of the ugliest games known to mankind. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing South Carolina fans blame the officials. Okay, you can.
Let's start off there. What did you think of? What did you think of it?
You can blame the referees all you want. Okay. Now, did you get unlucky? Yeah, you got unbelievably unlucky. You should have won the game. You had a lot, and I mean a lot of unlucky breaks that went in LSU's favor. I can hear that out, but I can't hear the official thing again. I just can't. Like, yeah, were there some?
Do you think it was a horse collar on Nuss?
Yes, it was.
Do you think it was a blind side block on Nuss?
Yes, and if you pull, it's been clear because I used to get this wrong myself. If you pull the nameplate, it's a horse collar. It's blatantly clear. So you got unlucky. Now, were there some calls? Do I think the calls overall tilted in LSU's favor? I do think so, but I don't think it was anything crazy. And Blake, I'm the last person to defend Jason Autry, and he did some bad stuff in this game. Okay, he is the worst official. He had some horrible calls, but I don't think it was so much in favor of South Carolina. I also think, and this was in the film study and nobody mentioned, and I went on a deep dive on this last night, Blake. There was also a misintentional grounding against Robbie Ashford that I think would have been huge because it would have pushed their field goal back. It would have kept it a 30-29 game compared to a 33-29 game. It would have made it a tougher field goal as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can point to in that game, but I don't think the officials were so in favor of South Carolina to where all these people are bitching and moaning about that. Okay?
Yeah, and look, alpha dogs don't complain about the referees.
You don't.
Alpha programs don't. You know, like, listen, I got to be real with you. Like, I even if you take away some of those two penalties, Garrett and Nussmeier, it's a blindside block. LSU was literally hit with that on the pump before on Xavier Thomas when he got 10 yards. By the way, they needed that 10 yards. Okay, when they were trying to go down and score.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, they were pretty consistent on it. So, LSU got hit with the same thing.
Right.
Let's get on the field because, look, I'm with you. I'm very tired of we lost. Well, good on you. Good on you. Yeah. Let's start off with this. Carter, last week we discussed you were pretty bullish that we were going to go in here and walk on this team.
Yeah, I was.
And I'm going to talk about our personal conversation. I'm not going to disclose everything.
Oh, go on.
I told you that my personal feeling was, dude, I was so nervous about this game. Let me ask you this. Do you change your mind about South Carolina today now that they've played LSU?
A little, but I just overrated LSU going into this game. And this, honestly, Blake, and I was very underweight on this LSU defense. I just thought that they were going to play a lot better than they did based on what I had seen from South Carolina the first couple of weeks. So, yeah, I underrated South Carolina. I underrated the environment, and we folded for the most part early in this game. And we do have to have a serious conversation about Brian Kelly and all these games where LSU is unprepared for. I mean, it just always seems like they've dug themselves in big holes. Now, it wasn't as big of an issue last year as it was in 2022, but you were sluggish to start versus Nichols. You were sluggish to start in this game. So whatever the case may be, I saw you talking about, reports or whatever, but you should also look in-house. Are teams able to pick up your signals? That's something you have to worry about. Now, I know there's radio communication. Is there something
they're still using signals?
Right. There's still things that people can pick up on. Are there tendencies that people are seeing? What is it with all these slow starts, right? This has happened now in multiple different seasons, and there are a lot of.
Well, it's happened the first 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, it was very clunky to, in many ways to start the USC game. So that's got to be fixed. And that is ultimately on the head coach, right? You've got to have a better planned out game plan for what you want to do. And as you've talked about, Blake, the run fits were abysmal. Whit Weeks had a really rough game. South Carolina was very much ready to run the football at Whit Weeks, and that would have been the exact thing I would have done as well with him starting, right?
Well, they wouldn't have known that or to do that, or probably might have not made that adjustment if that wasn't published. And I'm going to say this because I'm going to ask you in just a second your big takeaways. I know we're on the biggest one here, but look, man, I talked to somebody. That's why I made a big reaction of it on Thursday. People said I was overreacting to the situation at hand, and I knew that I wasn't. They had prepared for it.
Yeah.
They had prepared for it. And then look, does Whit Weeks got to have contain on the Raheem Sanders run? Yes. That's inexperience and lack of experience. But the simple nature that he knew to bust it outside the way that he did, and some of the things that they did is not an LSU problem. I'm going to tell you what it is. Listen, brother, it's that they knew what to do. And I think that when we talk about reporting and we talk about specific things, that's the kind of thing that hurts your team. Carter, I know I am reporting. Okay, you know my track record. I am reporting that they knew and prepared for it and openly went after it. I'm going to give Whit Weeks a mulligan. You do it again this week? All right, you got to sit. But I will say this. I'm going to keep this in the back of my mind because everybody called for him to be out there. Now what do you do?
Yeah, I was one of them. And he did not play well. He just did not play well.
At all.
I think a lot of it was getting used to being a starter, understanding the responsibilities of playing. If you're playing the 4-3, right? In theory, that's one less DB on the field. So it's that much more important for you to have your fits, right? Because that makes it to where there's not as many fast guys that can run down to tackle the ball carriers.
Right.
He's got to be better. He simply has got to be better. This was not what we saw in the USC game. This was not, quite frankly, the game that we saw versus Mississippi State last year, where in week 3, he had to step in and start as a true freshman. So he just wasn't good. The tape showed that. Obviously, it wasn't all on him. I will say this, though, and I will defend him on this thing. His final play was pretty damn good. The tackle.
He learned from the mistake before when Raheem Sanders broke it out and stopped him for the field goal. I agree. Correct.
And I still think he is going to be a very, very good linebacker.
I do too.
And I will also say this. A bad game is sometimes the best thing for you, okay? Everybody was saying you should play, including myself. You get the chance to start and you laid an egg, okay? Now, learn from that. Take the coaching. Listen. Don't be so overly aggressive. And then you will become the player that I believe and you believe and everybody believes will be one of the better linebackers recently at LSU. And overall, I do agree with you. I mean, were there some mistakes from the LSU defensive tackles? Yes. But I will say Parashand had his best game arguably as an LSU.
Without question.
And Braden Swinson was a second, third round draft pick. I mean, he played like a first round draft pick, but he moved up draft boards playing as well as he did with all the different shit he did in the game. It was unfreaking believable. And the last thing, Blake, okay, this blew me away that we did not keep playing Deshaun Spears. Okay. I want everyone to understand this. When you think of defensive backs, you immediately, the first thing you think of is pass defense. And that is your number one job. Don't give up explosive passing plays. But the second, and arguably the absolute most important thing you do as a defensive back is the touchdown saving tackle. It is the most underrated.
Which he literally did in the opening drive multiple times.
But here's the thing, Blake. Here's the thing. You're not going far enough. You're not going far enough. It's not only that he did that. They were difficult, really, really, really difficult open field tackles versus grown-ass men. Rocket Sanders, if he didn't get hurt, would have been a third or fourth round pick last year. I mean, that's a pro. And we're talking about an 18-year-old kid in his first game on the road, saving our asses twice. And and we didn't really play him anymore after that. And guess what? Sage Ryan in the same spot, touchdown saving tackle. Now, we'll say that touchdown saving tackle was far more difficult because it was in the middle of the field. Can't pin him to the sideline, but he didn't make it. Okay, Sage Ryan never makes touchdown saving tackles. He never has. It happened in the spring. It's happened 1,000 times.
At what time does he got to learn to break down?
I don't know. I don't. What is
He's coming in guns blazing and he gets juked in the open field. I mean, Carter, listen, that's not fixable. He's been here too long. It's not fixable.
And I'm not saying that Deshaun Spears is for sure going to make the tackle versus an elite athlete in Lenore Sellers. I'm not saying that. But he proved that he could bring down an NFL running back, a guy that's playing on Sundays for sure. He's going to get drafted in the 6th or 7th round. He's a really, like, he's a 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC. And Blake, they were clean-ass run-throughs, and he made both the tackles. I cannot stress enough how freaking difficult.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there too. So will Jordan Gilbert. I mean, people forget that Jordan Gilbert forced a fumble on Raheem Sanders early in the game.
And he atoned for the USC
all
game.
the things that he – brother, I talk to guys because Believes with PFF now.
Yeah.
The highest grade PFF gave any LSU player this week was Jordan Gilbert.
I'm proud of him.
He played a fantastic – either one is fine with me. I think Deshaun has a bigger upside, okay? But the simple nature – okay, that the safety room is not good at the current moment. Now, you're without Jordan Allen, but I thought Major Burns played well. I thought he played well enough that he could be serviceable until he gets to move back to star. Let me ask you this. Let's turn the page on one thing. I know we got a couple of big takeaways, but I want to bring this up to you.
Yeah.
3 points on 3 turnovers.
Yeah, and Blake, the biggest thing was the goal line play calling. He's not learning. Like, you don't. Why?
Meaning, Joe, you're saying are you saying Joe Sloan's not learning, or that Garrett Nussmeier is not learning, or both?
But I mean, a little bit of both, right? Garrett Nussmeier's had, and I do disagree with your Garrett Nussmeier take. We'll get to that in a second. But
yeah, we're gonna get to that in a minute.
But the red zone turnovers obviously have to stop. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. What I will say, though, is we've got to quit doing the tight formation stuff. And if you're going to do the tight formation stuff, you've got to mix up the sequences of your play calling.
Like, how about this? Run the ball outside.
Yeah. So I will say on the first down run, Caleb has got to bounce that. That is the cleanest bounce.
I agree.
You will see. Okay. It's just, you got to be bold and do it, right?
But this is another – we're going to do this every single week. This is from your film study. Okay, 3rd and 1. Look at how many people are in the box. Do you want to know how many that is? It's 9. So when you're trying to get a yard and you have 9 dudes in the box, that is not cohesive to running the football. By the way, speaking of that, okay, and running the football, which we'll get to in a minute, the running backs had 28 carries for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm not overly I think you're average in the running game. But it's schematically when you spread them out that you were different. But the point that I was trying to make, Carter, 3 points on 3 turnovers is abysmal. Yeah, it's going to lose you football games.
Yeah, and look, I'm willing to let Joe Sloan find his groove as a play caller. I really am. One thing, all right. Now, Blake, I got a lot wrong about the South Carolina game. I did do a full deep dive onto what I would do to fix and unlock the LSU running game. And a lot of it was Caden Durham just being spectacular. I am very happy that LSU increased what the Saints also increased this year, which is play action. There you go. Look, right at the same time. Garrett Nussmeier, his combined play action attempts per PFF, and I just saw this in the film study as well, but they have the exact, digits to it. He had as many play action passes in the South Carolina game than he had in the 2 games combined prior. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And guess what? Our dear beloved New Orleans Saints, they were last in the NFL in play action rate. And before Derek Carr came to the Saints, when he was actually a good quarterback with the Raiders, he was the best thrower on play action percentage. So guess what? Coach Kubiak decided to do. He said, well, let's run more freaking play action. Okay. And guess what happened? The Saints have been the best offense objectively in the NFL, not the Chiefs, not our dear beloved Joe Burrow with the Bengals, not the 49ers. Play action unlocks everything. And I do think it also helped with the run game. It helped with your run sequencing. I do think there are some things personnel-wise that Joe Sloan needs to mix up. There are some tendencies that are very easy to pick up from defensive coordinators that I brought up some in the film study, and it should get fixed. But I do give Joe Sloan a lot of freaking credit for increasing play action rate. And I think it's even more important, Blake, to do it when you have a pocket quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier. So
you went to a split T formation 2 times when you came out at half at the red zone. You didn't score. Actually, 3 times. Here's a novel thought, and this has got to come from BK, so I'm not putting this on Sloan.
Right.
Get your quarterback under center and QB sneak and bush push that thing.
Yes.
I'm going to say this, and I don't think that this team is. I don't think Brian Kelly is. I don't think Joe Sloan is. It makes you look like a pussy. When you're not able to line up and get a yard or 6 inches and you can't run a quarterback sneak, it makes you look like a bitch. And that is what teams will continue. I'm telling you, it's what teams will continue to say about you if you can't get 6 inches. That's what she said. If you can't get 6 inches. But Carter, here's the truth. I know you don't want to hurt Garrett, and I understand it. But you got to be able to line up and punch somebody in their shit. And I am about sick and tired of you not being able to line up and go under center and get 6 inches. Hey, get a 6 inch from Subway. Measure it out. And if you can't go under center and get that, you don't deserve to win football games. I am more upset that they had 3 turnovers, one that was in the red zone, and that you got 3. Carter, you got 2 turnovers that were inside the 20, and you got 3 points out of them.
No, it was bad. And
no, it's abysmal. It is quite honestly the worst thing that Brian Kelly's ever done. That's the worst thing that's ever happened to LSU in that exact moment.
Well, I wouldn't say the worst. There's been some.
Carter, you cannot get they started at their own 20.
Okay, yeah, I know, but I wouldn't not running a QB.
Okay, fair. All right, maybe I'm over exaggerating.
I'll never forget that. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the under center stuff. It makes no sense in the modern game to not do more under center if teams are going to run more deep safeties, because you know what pulls a safety into the box where you can hit deep stuff is a long play action fake. All right, it's so tough.
You mean the way that Mason Taylor scored?
Yes, exactly. Blake, I would run so much. If I were an offensive coordinator, I would do exactly what Kubiak does. Outside zone, teach everybody on my team outside zone, and just play action out of it. And that has worked. That has worked. Malik Willis did it this weekend with the freaking Packers. So
even with a puked football.
Yes, that was an all-time best clip. But I saw someone in the chat, and I will answer this. All right. There was someone, one of your Facebook viewers. I'm not as big on Facebook, so he's probably never heard of me. I'd have to scroll up to see it. But you have a huge Facebook following. I did see a few viewers say, well, you need to be able to run the football for play action to work. That's not true. All right. There's been a lot of studies done on this. Play action is still effective because Garrett Nussmeier has been effective on play action up to this point with no running game. The opposite is actually true, Blake. If you look at LSU's best runs, they've actually come on plays after play action passes. John Emery's best run on the season, that 66-yarder, came on the play after a play action pass. Josh Williams' best run from that game. Caleb Jackson's best run from that game. Go look at the Wisconsin game. Their best runs all came on plays after pass plays. So, in essence, the pass play actually opens up the run. And now with Kanan Durham, with some of the things you're able to do out of shotgun, you actually have someone that can break tackles. I will also say this. Play action passing is better if you do have a running game, but it's not a prerequisite for it to work. Well,
even to your point, I here's my thing on the running game. I thought that they progressed massively. Yeah. It backed South Carolina out, okay, to the extent when Caden came into the game, you got to break tackles. But here's the thing that's not helping this O-line at all. they have zero respect for Garrett Nussmeier ever pulling anything. And that is going to continue to happen. Dylan Stewart had no respect. Kincaid had no respect for him ever pulling the football. And you know what? If you run a zone read right there, you're getting a first down. It feels as if that they're trying to protect him at all costs, and I understand why. I do. I get why you're protecting him at all costs. Here's the thing, though, about being in the red zone and not converting those into points. It's going to lead into our Garrett Nussmeier conversation.
Yeah.
I'm going to prerequisite this, okay, by saying I don't think that he had a bad game. And I don't want anybody to think that Blake Ruffino is saying that he had a bad game. But, Carter, he missed 15 throws, okay, and some of them were really bad, and then some of them were really great plays by guys like Aaron Anderson, who also we're going to talk about in just a moment.
Yeah. The
interceptions are boneheaded. That's what bothers me more than anything. It's not that he's throwing it. It's not as if that he's getting confused and throwing the pick. The horse collar is not being confused. It's that he doesn't want to take a sack. Okay? He's pressing too hard. Carter, the horse collar, okay, in and of itself, all right, that one's worse than the triple coverage because it's like the Max Johnson thing. You're trying to take the sack.
Yeah.
Take the sack.
And Blake.
Last point.
Yeah, go ahead.
When Major Burns recovers that fumble, the outright last thing that can happen is that he throws the interception.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing that can happen there. And he did. And Carter, I'm going to be real with you. He threw it into triple coverage.
Yeah.
And that's the part for me that I'm saying, listen, I think that Garrett is going to be a very good quarterback. But when we talk about him, we have to be real on what we're seeing. Now, again, there are some NFL day one starter in the NFL throws that he makes. That's undeniable. There's also some Nathan Peterman type of throws that he makes in there too.
Yeah, so let's start with the turnovers. Okay. That wasn't the first time he did that in the first quarter. Versus Nichols, that ball should have been picked off on the very first drive.
Exactly.
He threw it to Kyron Lacy, and guys were it was one of the worst throws I have ever seen an LSU quarterback make because, we don't want to give Nichols any momentum. We don't want them to feel anything to start the game. That was a really bad decision, and it should have been picked off. So that happening in the first quarter did not shock me at all. You've got to eat the sack. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say, and I've seen some people make this bogus claim. Well, he knew he was getting a horse collar. He was throwing it up. Stop.
No, he did not. No, he did not.
Not even. And there's not a single quarterback coach in the planet that would not tell you just got to eat it. If you don't feel like you're getting past that guy, you've just got to eat that sack. And then obviously the red zone turnover was bad. And then to add one more to it, the Kamarion Pimpton throw on the game-winning drive was also one you've got to chunk into.
That was almost picked.
That was almost the game. Yeah, the game was almost over on that. That was not as good.
So do you understand my point? Where listen, I have seen this ad nauseum today. Ad nauseum. You have media members that I really respect, and I really do.
Yeah.
That are slob-knobbing over a lot of these throws. They are fantastic throws. The one to Aaron Anderson over the middle is NFL level. Carter, again, he's in a game-tying situation, a game-winning situation, and he throws a pick, and then he almost throws the one to Pimpton. Brother, that's inexcusable.
Yeah. No, I am so with you, man, because he's not gone away from throwing red zone interceptions. This was a problem he had in 2022. So it's a problem.
Jaden beat him out. There, I said it. You want to here's some deep sourcing for you. The reason Jaden Daniels started over him in 22 and why they never went away from him is because they were terrified that he would continue to throw picks. The Southern game terrified them. And Brian Kelly is massive on turning the football over. I think if you injected Brian Kelly with truth serum right now, he would tell you that the thing that keeps him up at night is not how good Garrett Nussmeier can be, even though he knows he can. It's the Kamarian Penton throw. It's the pick six. It's the horse collar attack. That's what keeps him up at night, Carter.
Yeah. No, and look, I'm also going to be one of those media members that slob knobs on these throws because look,
slob knob on the throws, but you got to put into context that he almost lost you the game himself.
Okay, so this is where I'll push back on because there's probably 2 or 3 different shows where we talked about this exact same scenario. Okay, where you have to worry about the red zone picks. I've been on the show 3 years, and I've been making this point over and over and over again. Brought it up when he threw the horrible goal line fade versus Purdue for a pick in the red zone, right? It's an issue. It's a major issue, and it's got to stop. It just does. And part of it
cost you a game.
Yes. So this has always been my stance on Garrett Nussmeier. Is he one of the 10 best quarterbacks in America right now? Yes. Yes, absolutely. I would say so. All the weight he has had to carry on his shoulders with this team. LSU Blake is a bottom 10 defense in EPA per play, opponent adjusted EPA per play throughout the season. We had no offensive rhythm at all throughout the course of this game. There were a ridiculous amount of hard third down conversions where he threw the football where only the ball could be. And Blake, as you know, and I did this, I don't want anyone to think I'm stupid for nuts. I've always said I know someone very close to Garrett Nussmeier. And I talk to him still frequently, and he's fine when I'm honest. I'm always very open with that kind of stuff. I said these same things about Miller Moss and leading up to the USC game, and they became true. Okay. In that Louisville game, Miller Moss made so many throws that were extremely difficult that not many quarterbacks can make. And Garrett Nussmeier in this game had a high volume of these types of throws, anticipation throws, difficult throws.
Very much so.
2 of the best throws you will ever see to Aaron Anderson was when Will Campbell, who had a phenomenal game,
had to grab the face mask.
Yeah, he got beat. He got beat on his blind side, and Garrett Nussmeier is getting crushed while he delivered 2 of the best throws you will ever see.
Fantastic throw.
Yes, and we simply are not in this game without Garrett Nussmeier at all. We're just not in it.
You're also not about to lose it either.
Yes. So there's that side of it as well. So for me, Blake, I always say this: if you're someone out there that I've always said this about wide receivers, if you can't catch a football, at least block for me, right? If Garrett Nussmeier continues to make the red zone picks or the occasional turnover here or there, I can live with it if you are in return still playing quarterback at a high level, which is what
I agree with that. Look, I'm not calling for him to be benched.
Yeah, no, I know.
But I don't think here's the thing that I just want to caution people on. Okay, I agree with everything that you just said. The high level throws that he made are going to get him drafted. Okay, there's no doubt about it. I think he's going to win you games, but yards mean nothing when you can't score. All the throws that he's making in between the 20s means outright nothing if he can't get it into the end zone. Okay, I thought the RPO to Kyron Lacy was beautiful. The fake look, the fake handoff, and the way that he moved his feet, phenomenal, perfect. I want you to do that. But Carter, if we're on the outside looking in because he has another one of those red zone turnovers of the playoff, which by the way, let's call it what it is. And I don't have a lot of time to preview this with you. But UCLA is not a good football team. South Alabama is not a good football team. You have a bye and then Ole Miss. I think he's got a lot that he can work on in the next month because it is going to be the next month. I understand it's his first road game. I get all of that. But there comes a point where this has got to be something that has been focused on. I went back to a spring video I did, a practice report that I did. Do you want to know what I led the show off with? This is exactly what I led the show off with. You ready? Garrett Nussmeier, 1 for 12 in the red zone, picked off 3 times.
Now it's
and I'm telling you now, listen, Jaden Daniels' best ability was not turning the football over. That is it. That was his you cannot give the other team. I'm going to be labeled a Nuss hater. I already know what's coming for me. I thought he won you the game on the 13th possession. He made some really great throws. There just comes a point where if you do, I don't care what you do in between the 20s, if that's the result I'm going to get. Here's another thing that I think is hurting him too. Joe Sloan has given him nothing to work with at times. Yeah. Nothing.
I mean, and that's also part of why I'm giving us a little bit more leeway on this, is that the stuff he's having to complete are really, really, really difficult throws. Okay. And that's part.
But there's come a point like Aaron Anderson. Let's talk about like Aaron Anderson saved him 3 times on 3rd downs. Saved him because the throw that he makes over the middle. I'm going to expose myself a little bit. Aaron says he couldn't see the football.
Oh, that's amazing. It was behind him, but
it was behind him, and he said he literally just stuck his hands out there, and God caught the football for him.
Good, Aaron. I like. But
you know what the best play was? Aaron Anderson's your best wide receiver right now. I don't miss me with this Kyron Lacy thing. Aaron Anderson is your most clutch player on offense right now.
Oh, come on. Don't go that far. He's not better than Kyron.
He's better than he's going to wind up being better than Kyron.
Oh, come on, Blake. I respect you too much for this, and I don't know if he's better than CJ. I don't know if he's better than CJ.
That's another one. Here's another thing. The throw to CJ in the back of the end zone's got to be completed. It's a 6-yard throw.
Well, yeah, actually, that shouldn't have been where he threw. I mean, the throw was actually supposed to go to Mason.
They came back to the same play. Did you notice?
Yeah, the Alabama play. But yeah, it's crazy. But I do want to show CJ Daniels some love.
I do too.
Because, all right, so I do the film study, Blake, and it takes a lot of time because I'm doing NFL stuff mixed in. I took down the hour-long film study so I can go learn more about intentional grounding. I really think LSU got screwed with that. I really freaking do. All right. And it almost cost him the game. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Apparently, South Carolina fans were quiet about that. But I don't look at the PFF grades until I do my own grades and watch the game over. One thing that blew me the freak away is CJ Daniels by far led all wide receivers in snaps. He was out there for 74 of the 78 plays. Okay.
Wow.
Like that is unfreaking believable.
He's been really good. The couple of hitches that he caught, breaking a couple of tackles, getting first downs. He's had a really, really, really good 2 games.
Yeah. And on one rollout, Garrett did miss him on a scramble drill for a tutty. I mean, one guy who has a legit gripe with Garrett Nussmeier would be him because they're
Let me ask you this question. Do you think Nuss is forcing Kyron the football too much?
Yes. And that's a massive, massive, massive problem. Some of and Blake, honestly, some of it is Chris not being there because, like, for instance, Jaden threw the ball a lot to receivers he had at least the maximum amount of experience with. Kyron, obviously Mason, and obviously those other 2 guys that are pretty good now and been really good in the NFL. These
yeah, Malik was phenomenal.
Phenomenal with bad QB play. So, and BTJ was phenomenal. He made Trevor Lawrence. It was the only I do a lot of Jaguar stuff on the NFL channel. BTJ bailed Trevor out a lot.
Yeah, he did.
But the truth is, Garrett. I mean, a lot of these guys are new, right? Xavion's new, and obviously I'm super high on Xavion.
He's got to get carries, by the way. You got to line him up and give him the football and let him run.
I mean, he might be your second best running back.
Right? He might be.
I mean, the thing that was crazy about his run was mid-run, like in the middle of the field, he actually switched the ball in his hands.
I saw that.
That was insane. That was like that
needs to be the kid. They got to give him some carries.
Yeah, he's explosive.
But to your point about CJ Daniels,
yeah, he's played really well. The way this stuff normally works out. So one of my best calls doing LSU stuff was that BTJ was going to have a ginormous year last year.
You did. I'll give you
that. So part of what you need to do is look at the process of it. So the LSU coaches believe in CJ Daniels. They're playing him 74 out of their 78 snaps. Okay. That was more than Kyron.
Cortez does for sure.
Right. So they also, it took a lot to get him there because he was the best receiver in the portal. But on top of that, if you see on film that he's getting open, over time, those things start to turn into completions, right? It's part of why, Malik didn't have a good week 1, but Blake, he led the NFL in target share. All right. And after week 2, he has a 35% target share, which is very hard. That means 1 out of every 3 times they're throwing you the football, actually more than 1 out of every 3 times. So CJ is someone that you want to buy low on because he's going to get better even when Chris comes back. Because if you're getting open now, you're going to keep getting playing time. But you are right about Aaron. Aaron has really improved. He runs great routes. He's very quick, and he's fully healthy, right? He
put his tail down, went to work, didn't say anything. I mean, the critical third down that he had, the one where he had to stretch out and get the first down, is the biggest play because you wind up scoring on that drive, right?
Yeah, and one of his better plays last year, he had a huge third down conversion in the first half of the Arkansas game last year.
He did.
So he's not, as a smaller guy, he actually is pretty good over the middle. So, I've been skeptical of Aaron. I thought he was always good, but he has really exceeded my expectations. And,
gotta give him more touches.
Yeah, he's been very, very, very good.
Last thing. I think the rotation at wide receivers got to stop. I think you need to get Kyle Parker out of there. You need to keep Aaron Anderson in. Kyle Parker and Nuss do not have a connection, and I hate it for Kyle, but it's not working. Last thing I want to ask you, because I got to get you out of here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
UCLA's not good. What's your thoughts going into this game?
Yeah, so Blake, I don't start my eval until Thursday, honestly.
Okay.
But
here's what I'm going to tell you: they're dookie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were doing with the hire that they made, but
maybe the only guy that would take the job.
Right. I think that's part of it. I never want to blindside a coach with a P4 job. I never want to do that. It's I could see that actually at the high school level. I could see that in the NFL level, but I go to you, blindside you. Hey, do you want to get your ass on the road recruiting right now? Because if you take a job that short notice, you've got to move your family, pack all your shit up, all that stuff. And then you got to be on the phone for hours and hours and hours building a roster. And it's predicting UCLA being ass was not really that hard. But
Indiana ripped them to pieces.
But if Brian Kelly is a really good coach, he takes care of business early. I want to see sharp football right out of the gate.
Me too.
I think LSU is going to have a really strong bounce back week in special teams. I'm not angry that you had a rough special teams game versus a Beamer. And we can get into the punt and all that stuff. I heard Brian Kelly's argument about it, but Beamer.
I heard that they gave it to the SEC, and the SEC sent an email during the offseason that even if you block a punt and you leap a shield guy, it's a 15-yard penalty.
That was my understanding as well, Blake. That was definitely my
even if it's blocked.
Even if it's blocked, you can't land. You can't land on because they wanted to prevent the Cam Chancellor play.
Correct.
Right? When he jumps clean, they don't want people landing on their necks or whatever.
Right. I do think that people overreacted with penalties this week because of the Tua thing. I think Tua getting hit. I think that there's an organization of referees and they started throwing flags. And when the punt got blocked, if you notice, go back and watch it. They're about to throw the flag. I think they got confused. Here's the thing. Slade Roy almost cost you a game too, twice. The snap was bad on the block punt, and the extra point was bad on the extra point. Your snaps are too slow. Way too slow.
I'm going to give him leeway. I know it's my guy. I will never publicly criticize him.
He's got to get it back there.
I will say this though. The one thing Brian Kelly was very defensive about was defending him because he's been so good over 3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So my bias aside, objectively speaking, I don't think this will happen again. Okay. And plus, this game also meant a lot to him because he played at ECU, right? So it was in like might have gotten too in his head about it, but I think Slade's going to bounce back and be his normal elite.
Let me ask you this question: thoughts on Harold Perkins?
Ooh, it was better. Obviously, if Brian Kelly says he feels it was because last week you can actually listen and hear him, like whether it was a teleconference or whatever, you can hear like his really want to and trying to make him feel more comfortable. Today, it did seem like he felt better. Or do you agree?
Oh, do I? I think if he makes that tackle in the first play, I think that he had a safety that he missed, that he shot the gap on.
That play.
Carter, I think he might be figuring it out.
I hope, man. I mean,
he was disruptive in the rush game, in the pass rush game, and everybody's like, he didn't make a sack. Carter, they're running away from him. That's how scared people are of him, because Braden Swinson should give all of his weekly NIL money to Harold Perkins.
The Sage Ryan strip doesn't happen if Perk didn't bring. He'd be
100%. Braden Swinson's either. Braden Swinson's doesn't happen either. Now, the reason it doesn't happen because you got 18 coming down, Penn coming down because the running back's in the block. Carter, they triple teamed Harold Perkins. Tripled him.
He did look a lot better. The one thing though, all right, the
coverage.
That and I would also say this, right? It is so hard to have an elite game defensively when you're playing better quarterbacks, right? It did help that this, and I said last week, I think on here, it might have been on one of my streams or whatever, this could be a big Perk game because there's extra value in having a quarterback who can run down the other team's really fast quarterbacks, right? Robbie Ashford has nightmares about him because, Perk took over the Auburn game a few years ago. And you could see it scared him, right? It definitely forced Lenore Sellers into some tough spots, and Ashford as well. So I'm really excited about Perk. Obviously, his upside is through the roof, and can't wait to see him keep growing in this defense, yeah.
Carter, the Power Bryant. You're the only guest I have on every week because I love you so much.
I'm the only one? No, I can't be the only one.
No, you're the only guest last week.
You're not the only. Come on, Sam. That's the
only. Why?